Screw it, here we are. Hey everybody, Brian here from quantlabs.net. We got 4 people, actually more people that come in online. I appreciate that. Got Jeff coming in. All right, so let's get started with some bantering. Just so you know, where I get these topics are from my Facebook group. And these are usually posted daily. I do about 3 rounds of posts on my Facebook group. It's turned into a trading group. It's getting pretty active. Just so you know, we've launched our WhatsApp group as well. And there's some good algorithmic stuff going on there. Welcome to everybody coming in. I appreciate you coming in already. You guys apparently can see my screen. So let me know where you guys are from. We got London, Ontario, Canada, and Santiago so far. I'm always interested to see the reach of this thing. As I said, we just launched our group, WhatsApp group. It's up to 40 people now. Lots of good banter on there. So that's all good. I'm going to just mute those that don't self-mute. Don't be offended. Okay, let's get started. All right, so like I said, I get all these posts from my Facebook group, and these are the most popular ones throughout the week. I usually do it up until Friday, so it's going to be not really that old. Michael's from Toronto. Welcome, welcome. All right, so let's get into this. So first topic, of course, we got Mr. Good old Jim Cramer on CNBC. He's like a fossil on that channel. And he was making some predictions. I'd say he's at best 50-50 being correct all the time. But I just, like, again, this is not about me bantering on and on. Anybody can chime in at any time via the chat. You can unmute yourselves. I'll even unmute anybody out there. So you can always chime in whenever you want via the chat, via just jump in on the audio. We're here to discuss these topics, the whole point of it. So what I do is I go through the comments, and these are some really interesting comments that come out of this. And I think this is a really true statement. We could go on about S&P and which direction it's going. I can give you my own opinion on it. But this comment came in on this post. It says, never listen to anyone predicting the market. Only technical analysis is factual and only control prevailing trend. Single tweet can change everything. Don't we all know that with the news sentiment out there? TA is factual. Things like moving averages, standard deviation, stochastic, correlation, etc. are science. They do not lie. That's true, but I find they can lag depending upon the time frame you're watching. They can identify historical patterns and they usually repeat, but not always. In my opinion, not using TA is madness, but trusting TA blindingly without understanding other factors is madness as well. Any thoughts on that? Here's my thoughts on technical analysis. I believe in technical analysis only for one thing, confirmation. Confirmation that this is happening, that is happening, but I've gone through, if you've seen my Motive Way videos and how good that platform is, I do find that a lot of these technical indicators are lagging, and that could be on a 1-minute basis, a 10-minute, a 15, an hourly basis. So they can be very, very deceiving on what is going on there, especially when it comes to looking for reversal points. So when it comes to the S&P, will the S&P turn into an ugly event? You know, when you look at today and the last week and how it's been up and the numbers are looking good, it's still fairly weak. There's no doubt on the S&P. The thing is with the S&P, I find right now is there's a lot of less interest in S&P or anything U.S. stocks. 2 weeks ago, I posted about, well, 2 weeks tonight actually, I said I think China will start to outperform the U.S. and it's starting to happen. You look at the price of oil, it's going up, and that's all because the Chinese are manufacturing again. They're getting their economy up and running, not pre-COVID level, but the charts that I'm seeing. But today, I just did my analysis, and what I found was that basically China's not the top performer as it was 2 weeks ago. Europe, 1 week ago, I would have thought was a top performer. And today I barely saw the EU 50 being a top performer. So from my perspective, the markets overall are just slowing down. Things are topping out, and just so you know that. Okay, like I said, for all the newbies coming in or the newcomers, you can always chime in on these opinions. These are just my own, but I'm always interested to hear what other people are saying. This is why I do these sort of events. So always chime in via the chat mode or the voice if you want to unmute yourselves. So that's what I'm figuring what's going on. I think that the U.S. markets are topping out. I think generally the equity markets are topping out. And we can go on to the next topic here. Ray Dalio says that the markets are no longer free markets. I don't know if any of you watched the video with Bloomberg last week. I think it was last Thursday, Friday. It was for half an hour, and where Ray Dalio was doing a 30-minute interview, and he says that basically the markets are no longer free, and that's very true when you look at what the Fed's trying to do by influencing by this yield curve control. I still don't even know what that means. So it's not free. And then they're also buying into corporate debt. And how can you say you have free capital markets when you have the central bank influencing signals for bond buyers, especially in the stock area? You know, that sort of thing is very negative on a negative outlook. And there was a comment here from somebody who says, well, they're being pumped up with free money, so there's that. And that's what, because you get all these people asking, why are the markets moving up? And that's because of the stimulus of these $1 trillion, $2 trillion, $5 trillion, whatever $trillion packages that Powell and the Federal Reserve want to put out. That's why you have the markets moving up. And I think that will most likely continue because the Fed seems to be somewhat influenced by Trump with a U.S. election coming up. So, you know, they're predicting they're going to add another $10 trillion onto the books of the U.S. national debt this year alone. I mean, that's massive. That's like 50% in 1 year in an increase. So I think what Ray Dalio is speaking of, where the capital markets are no longer free, is very true. As I said, if you guys got any opinions, let me know. If not, the faster I go, the shorter this will be. So be very interested to hear what people have to say. There's no right or wrong on this. We're here to learn and discuss about that.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, go ahead.
If you can hear me.
Go ahead.
Got my mic working. How's it going?
Awesome. Glad you came in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I am not the veteran of these markets, but I only really focus on things like the S&P, right?
Okay.
And so I'm mostly on the day time frame. I don't swing trade. I'm not into the options yet. Hopefully soon. But
okay.
So just that's kind of where I'm coming from when I say this.
Okay, no problem.
The Fed has certainly done a lot to influence the market, but I think the second component also involves the zero commission element, where you have people who have had the opportunity to just kind of participate, a lot more retail, I think, more than usual. Maybe not a tremendous amount to influence the trillions that are out there moving around, but I think that kind of plays at least into the stock market, which I never trade.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it just feels like there's no real strength or structure. So I do look at market profile. I'm a huge fan of auction theory. So what I see looks like weakness, but then again, it's hard for me to look at the higher time frames as accurately as people who are used to trading that way.
Yeah.
But that was just something else I thought could play into it. So is there a number behind how much money from retail through things like Robinhood and these user-friendly zero commission platforms? I don't know what the number is, but it seems like maybe it had an impact.
Well, I don't know the exact numbers, but when you factor in retail versus institutional, I would imagine even in the best of times, that retail versus the influence on the markets is fairly small. But I don't know if you know what's going on with Robinhood. We talked about it, I think, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, where we said that with Robinhood, what they do is they're free for a reason because they got to make revenue somehow. And there's a lot of talk of these millennial traders coming in, don't know what they're doing, thinking they're, like Warren Buffett, whatnot, and they're coming in with these zero commissions and thinking they're rock stars. But the actual reality is that Robinhood will sell the order flow back to HFT shops. And then what I've got confirmation from an institute about 10 days ago is that they are actually, a lot of hedge funds are catching on those trading signals from the HFT shops, and they turn around and they short a lot of the order flow coming through Robinhood. So is there an impact on it? Maybe. Is it like large? I can't say, but I think from a retail versus institutional level of buyers, I think it's I don't know what the total percentage of retail traders have on the overall market, but from what I'm seeing, it's significant, but it's not as significant as you might think. I don't know, but if somebody out there can correct me on that. But the thing is with these things, even if you're correct on what is going on with Robin, that's the perception that's being put out there. But the reality is that there's somebody on that other side of that trade reselling that order flow to somebody else and is shorting against those traders.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I think that is true because why else would they do it free?
Right.
They have to make money from somewhere.
That's right.
It's not a voluntary organization, not a charity. So as you said, I think you're right. He must be giving the information to the hedge funds. Those guys are playing these guys. They know what the Robinhood traders are doing.
Yeah.
And you've seen that happen. You've seen that happen with all the airline stocks.
Right.
A lot of Robinhood guys got into the airline stocks, and then suddenly it came down.
Yeah. I don't know if you watched the Warren Buffett annual event. I think it was in March, where he said he's getting out of airlines.
Yes.
That definitely started it.
Yeah, that started it.
But the question to everybody on here, I mean, what do you think the retail total volume of retail traders is against the overall total U.S. market when you include institutional, and that would also include a lot.
5%.
I was told less than 10. No matter what. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not I don't know the number.
But I think you're right that in terms of from a fundamental point of view, that the markets are looking weak. And this is another topic right here. The Vix Indicator, again, I just read another one where the Vix is starting to show warning signs of, things are starting to get a little freaky in the markets, and the Vix Indicator has gone up. And
it's come down back again.
Oh, it has?
Yeah, the Vix has gone down back again.
What about today?
I didn't see it today, but it's been today. The market is up, right?
Yeah.
If the market is up, that means the Vix is going more down.
Yeah, no, I don't know where I only read the headlines, but that's why I'm doing.
Not yet. I looked at the charts.
Yeah.
And the Vix is way down.
Okay, that's good to know.
What it was a month back or 3 weeks back, it's gone much below. So it's not. You see, the thing is that nobody knows what's going to happen, right?
Right.
Nobody can predict what's going to happen.
Right.
Because this is the election year. You know that.
Yep.
The second thing is that there's a lot of money in the market.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money. It has to go somewhere.
Right.
So where else can it go?
Well,
so they're going to put it in the market. They're going to take it up. And, and the government also is pumping money, right? Both these guys are pumping money.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to go up unless, there's a virus, something really bad happens. And then, but according to fundamentals, there's a problem. There's no doubt about it. It will get corrected maybe down the road somewhere.
Yeah.
It could get corrected now, or it could get corrected after a year, 2 years. But this market, I think it's in a bull market. That's what I think. But, anything can happen, right? That's what you have to be ready for.
Right. But what do you think of the theory, though, that because, as you said, there's an election coming up November 3rd, Trump seems to have some sort of influence on the Fed, and that the Fed is being influenced a lot by a lot of the Trump calls to try to inflate the market, keep it inflated.
As you know, the market is always up when the election is there, right?
Right.
As you know, if you look at the records in the election year, the market is always up because the president, if the market is down, most presidents they lose the election. That's history tells you that.
Yeah. Well,
So
you don't. So when you see the numbers coming out of Florida, Arizona, Texas, you don't think that will have any form of impact on the markets at all, like
see,
short term, long term?
if it would have had an impact, it would already had an impact long time back, right?
Yeah.
This is a virus situation. We shouldn't have got a week. We shouldn't have got a week. We should have got a weak correction. I mean, the market is went down so much and came back up so fast. It
Yeah.
never happened in history that the market has come back so fast.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
There's never been infinite QE either.
Not
yeah,
just that, but you don't have the influence of algorithms that are out there. I mean, 80% of the market is driven by algos, right?
that's what I'm saying. So there are
Yeah.
many factors, right?
Right. Right.
There
Right.
are many factors, but according to me, I think it's going to be a bullish.
Yeah, you're
But
probably right.
But you know, the thing as I told you, nobody can predict the market, right? Nobody.
Right.
But you have to know, you have to be prepared, right? If something happens, what am I going to do? You
Right.
know,
Well,
that you have to be prepared for that.
but when I look at my stuff, like I look at the overall view of the market, and I've looked at it last night and earlier today when the markets were performing, and these are future buyers, and there's not a lot of people loading up on a lot of, like, international level, loading up on U.S. stocks. It just doesn't seem that way. I mean, it's more agriculture, natural gas was up there. Also, the other one was corn. Then there's also Australian dollars doing well because of the China trade with Australia, with namely probably iron ore, and Britain's coming back somehow on the British pound. That's what I'm seeing, but I'm not seeing a lot of big, like, top performers with the U.S. So I guess what I'm asking is, do you think markets like the China will outperform the U.S. in the next, let's say, till the election? Do you think that's possible?
See, anything is possible, right?
Yeah.
When you're talking about the market, anything is possible. You cannot say tomorrow the market is going to go up. But when you talk about the market, you never talk about 100%. It's all about probabilities, right?
Well, if you're a betting man and
It's
you
all
had,
about probabilities.
right, if you had X amount of dollars, where would you allocate your cash to right now
Yeah.
for top performance? Where would you allocate your money right now, like, as a top performer with the best outlook over the next, let's say, 6 months? Anybody out there? Because I'm starting to think 2 weeks ago China's bottomed out and is starting to perform really well. That's what I'm seeing. But you're saying that U.S. markets can come back. Any other opinion on that at all?
I mean, I just look at futures for the most part,
Yeah.
and there was some weird stuff going on last week, which I'm still getting used to the whole like quantifying ideas with numbers aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But just trying to get the date here. I think it was the 23rd. There was just such a huge delta anomaly, and that was very similar to what I started seeing early, I think February, before everything really, really collapsed.
That's when you say collapse. What, back in March?
Like when things started really accelerating. I'd have to go back here.
But you're talking about March, though, the March drop, right?
Yeah, was it March?
Is that
Yeah.
true? Okay.
And when I see things like these delta anomalies, like they really do stand out because they don't happen very often, right? So it was just some sort of thing where the whole market seemed to be short before this last kind of drop where we went from, what was it, like 3150s down testing just the 3000 mark.
Yep.
So that delta anomaly, which stood out like a sore thumb to me, sort of led the pack. And I'm very surprised to see the market kind of come back as it did, but obviously there are things that influence it, right? The news. But just those are things that I pick up because I look at this stuff every day. So the numbers were astronomical in the wrong direction. So I actually thought things were going to keep going down to the 2750 mark.
Yep.
After that was my sort of next point of control. That seemed to make sense underneath all the structure, which has almost nothing supporting it. So yeah, very surprised. But if I had to be a bet man, I'd be short for the next little bit because we're not really confirming much strength into this breakout of what is like a 2-3 week bracket in the S&P futures. So I know it's still climbing up outside of this range, but there's just a few things, like I said, that just don't make sense.
What do you think is going to drive it down? Like the bad news of coronavirus and all the rioting and all that?
I think there's going to be talks. So when coronavirus started not influencing the market as much, and I'm watching the order flow like all day, every day, right? So I see how much things kind of bounce around when each tweet, when each Fed talk, when everything happens. So I have this feel for how news or certain words are affecting the market in real time, and basically the word China is pressing the market more than actual coronavirus for the last week. And so my theory was wave 2 plus bad China trade deal stuff would be the ignition for a continued sort of from the 3000s and lower. But we haven't gotten much sort of major negative news, but it would be logical for it to be around China and something with trade or war. If things get too boring, you can always throw a war into the mix.
Yeah, I mean, from a political point of view, I'm really surprised that with all this Black Lives Matter, there was a video went out yesterday or last week, and there's a guy who went out, and when you donate to the Black Lives Matter, you're donating to the Democratic Party. And you go, why would that be happening? And then you go, is that because maybe China's funding all this? And you remember there was a Russia influence on the U.S. election? I'm really surprised that we're not hearing about a lot of the Chinese influence via, let's say, fundraising or whatnot that would have this kind of negative impact, not just on the markets themselves, but on this overall social cohesion in the U.S. I'm just really surprised that there's not a lot of talk about it. Because if that really become legitimate, that would really drive down the U.S. markets, I would think. If that came out, yeah. But I agree with you on the Chinese influence, trade-wise or whatnot. But again, it's just like what Paul was saying, is like the markets are just defying all odds, right? That's the thing. And people could have said that for the last few years, that, the market should go down, the fundamentals don't show up, but yet it's just been nothing but a steady rise up. No matter what the deficit looks like, no matter what the debt looks like, no matter what Trump says about China, I'm just amazed that the markets are still going as strong as they are.
I am on you with that. It is very surprising to me, but I mean, I stepped into this game kind of, in the last year or two. So for people who are, 10, 20-year veterans, I can see it just being even more mind-boggling than for someone like me, who just kind of started going full-time within the last 2 years,
Yeah.
Okay, full-time trading now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. What do you trade? Stocks or futures?
Booze and the Qs.
Oh, okay.
Soon maybe other markets, but heavy focus on the NASDAQ and the S&P futures.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because the thing is, I'm getting stories about, right here, what I've highlighted, that hedge funds are just posting double-digit returns.
It's juicy out there. That's all I can say from what I'm being told.
Yeah.
Oh, when there's so much volatility, you can make more money, right? Volatility is the most important thing.
Vix traders probably are going to be the ones making the most money this year. If you know any, they're probably just rolling in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one that we can talk about is we talked about last week, but again, Jim Simmons and Renaissance Technologies came up where there was a report he was up 24. He was down, then he's back up, where he's up on average 66% returns every year. I mean, people say that's not true because the fees are so high for Rentec that it's probably around on average 29%. I mean, it's still pretty good. But they seem to set the standards of what not just hedge funds return, but also traders overall. It doesn't matter your style of trading. But they must be doing really well as well.
There are some traders that can do better than that. They're just not managing like 14 billion, right? They're managing 10 million to 100, and they can beat that, but maybe not every year. But there are guys who can work it.
Are you saying that because they're smaller and that they're able to
Yeah.
move capital faster?
Very nimble, heavy focus on, not really hedging risk over many large time frames, just really coming into battle every day and, taking some, losing some, but
Yeah.
being very nimble, very very discretionary with algorithmic at the same time. So it's I'm not there yet. I'm still kind of trying to listen and keep my mouth shut with and pay attention to what they're doing, but it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, when the markets turn, I think it'll be really tough for a lot of these firms to be making money in an up market. Because, like I said, I've since yesterday I've been looking at everything out there, and the only things that are moving are like agricultural and what else I mentioned as well. And very few stock markets are moving, if maybe the eurozone. But yeah, it's not a lot of movement. I mean, I would have said China, but that's trade seems to be come and gone already. So who knows? How do you guys feel about oil? I mean, do any of you guys watch oil?
I only recently just added it to the mix for watching, but yeah, I don't know. Other than hearing how it went back into the negative zone, or it went into the negative, that was crazy.
Yeah, right. A few months ago.
Oil is not going to, according to me, oil will not go up for a little while.
Yeah.
Oil, see, there's a demand and supply, right?
Right.
The supply is so much, everybody's pumping so much of bloody oil, nobody there to buy it anymore. The virus has destroyed the market.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, sorry, go ahead, Paul.
And before that, only the price of oil is gone down. The oil price was basically down before the problem started. And now, this kind of, triggered it to go even more down. This was like a catalyst event,
right,
that destroyed the oil companies. A lot of oil companies. Now, see, that day I read somewhere that BP, they wiped off, $20 billion. They wrote it out, $20 billion from their books.
Right.
The oil, and now there's a lot of electric technology, technology. So oil, is not going to go up for a little while at least.
As far as I know, from a political point of view, you have OPEC Plus. They have an agreement to cut the supply, but yet China seems to now, and Indonesia as well, are starting to get their manufacturing going again, and their refineries are starting to get active again. So that seems to be either at least stabilizing the oil price. I mean, 2 weeks ago I said oil was going to go up. It went up. Now it's stabilized. But the one I'm seeing that, and this is more of a seasonal trade, is natural gas. I mean, have you guys seen anything in natural gas where natural gas may start to peak a little bit? Because
no comment.
Okay.
I don't trade oil. I used to trade before, but I don't trade.
Right. Well, I mean, I know there's also renewables as well. I guess like companies that manufacture car batteries will do quite well.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are coming in the market.
Yeah, I also think that I was watching a video yesterday how Hyundai has got trucks now that are fully hydro produced, and they're testing them in Switzerland. So they're sending out each week 10 new trucks. So I think it's going to be companies like Hyundai that are really revolutionizing this renewable car industry. That's and obviously Tesla's another one. I mean, do you think the outlook looks good for those kind of players?
I will be putting a lot of money into Tesla through the next 10 years if I can.
Well, I think. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know. There's so many reasons that long term Elon and Tesla are going to be untouchable.
Yeah, I think so.
The whole space thing is very interesting.
You see, according to me, this Tesla stock, one day it's going to crash, according to me. Because there's no company in the world, what they are doing, just an electric car. There are many other companies. Your stock is over $700. Unlike Ford and GM, they're not even $20. And they are also a car company. Like if it was a company like Google or some company and making some very sophisticated technology, all he is doing is making a car. It's just an electric car. Why would a stock be at $700? This is just a kind of,
because maybe the limit to
it
what you
doesn't
can
make sense
achieve
to me.
is the commercial space has infinite potential. So he's right in there.
But I mean, the market cap. I think the market cap of Tesla is bigger than, was it the entire car industry? Or I mean, it's massive. But
Yeah.
you look at China, they got a mega factory in Shanghai now. So, and apparently the Chinese will buy Tesla because it's American, but they won't touch anything else American. And they also are now building something in Berlin as well. So they're not going to put billions of dollars of investment in Germany or all of Europe, because I know it's in Norway or Sweden. They're crazy for Teslas. So he's seeing something that we ain't seeing. And yeah, and not only that, you got to remember he's got a Cybertruck. He's got this. Remember, he had that big, massive freightliner or what rig, truck rig. He's got that on the books. He's got it's a lot of innovative stuff coming out of Tesla.
Batteries for 1 million miles, or was it kilometers? Can't remember.
I don't know.
Like that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Whatever it is, I don't believe that stock should be more than $200. That's according to me. But, the market is always irrational, right? The market is always irrational. And you cannot go against the market.
No.
Because if you go against the market, you will lose. So it's going up. It'll keep going up. But one day I can tell you, it's going to come down pretty hard. That I can tell you. And when, I can't predict it.
But when you say the market's going to come down, or Tesla's going to come down?
Tesla.
Okay.
Tesla.
Oh, I think it is definitely overvalued currently as it is. I just think over my lifetime, I'd love to constantly just put a little bit, every month into Tesla, just accumulate, for as long as I possibly can. And definitely overvalued right now at this exact point in time, I think, yes.
And apparently there's another upstart, I don't know if it's US-based, called Nikola as well, that's getting a bit of hype. And they're getting into the pickup market as well. So, there's going to be competition coming out too. And you got to factor in the Chinese manufacturers as well. And they're heavily into, hydro or battery, whatever it is. So that's a possibility. Any other opinions on the markets at all, like stock market? I mean, where do you guys think Apple's going to be, or any of the big tech? You think that's going to come down at all? Because that's what's driving the markets right now.
I think tech will never stop. Quantum's just around the corner.
Yeah.
Automated machine learning is basically there. Google's open sourcing a ton of AI stuff. There's going to be a lot of artificial intelligence startups, and as soon as quantum computing gets a little cheaper, that's just going to power a whole bunch of innovation, like at a rate that.
So, what companies we'd be on the lookout for that's driving the quantum movement? Who would you recommend?
D-Wave's Canadian. I don't know if they're publicly traded though.
I think they are.
They're one of the big ones. They're one of the leaders, but very interesting company. There's obviously a lot more participants in the quantum development and research field,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
what I mean is you have to remember what happened in technology in the last 100 years. The two biggest things were microchips and then the internet. Quantum is about 100 million times more significant than any of those things in isolation. That's still a long play because you may not have usable quantum technology for 5-10 years, but tech is going to be huge always.
We had a guy on 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about a lot of what you just mentioned, but some of the upstarts I'd be looking at, I get well, not upstarts, but established would be, I would think, definitely Microsoft, because they got a whole programming language built around quantum. I think IBM's getting in there as well. Obviously, maybe Amazon as well. No? I think those names might be part of that trend.
Not sure, but I know all the big companies that are in tech are going to have their hand in it somehow. Maybe
Right.
not all the same way, but somehow.
But you think, but what you're saying though is Google's definitely more got their fingers in that pie more than any of the other ones.
I would probably just like Tesla for the rest of my life, just always wanting to buy more of Google. Apple, I'm not a huge fan of, but Google, those are just, there's no value that you can really diminish from what they offer and what they're going to keep offering, at least for what I see as the next 5-10 years.
Right. What do you say, Paul? You're out there.
About what?
You think tech will be the big driver of this bull market that you're talking about? And
Yes.
continue. And what
Yes.
what companies would you look at?
See, with me, I'm a short-term trader. I don't look long-term. So I don't give a hell what stock go. It's going to happen 5 years down the road or 4 years. I don't care.
What
I
about
don't.
6 months though, up until the election?
Yeah, then it is Google and all. They are big companies, right? Google is I think Google is much more powerful than Tesla. Like Google makes sense to me because Google, everybody uses Google. Who is not using Google? They are like, they have, they control the internet. Everything is YouTube, Google. So they are a very powerful company. I would, prefer Google to Tesla. What are they making? Just a car or trucks? And how many people own it? So, it's not like, well, as Google, everybody uses Google. They are using it for their ads. People are going on Google searches. So Google is very powerful, and I think
What about a Microsoft, especially for the
they
quantum?
too, they too. Microsoft also good, very good.
Anything involving the production of microchips, like whoever feeds Intel, AMD, all those manufacturing companies, um, probably going to be producing a lot in the next little bit.
What about, because I know Honeywell was a big. They put out some. Was it a week ago, 2 weeks ago? This is the most powerful chip yet ever made for quantum. So I guess Honeywell would be one to be on the lookout for as well.
I didn't actually see that. That's quite interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Honeywell. Do you want to talk about crypto? What do you guys view on crypto? Because there was a guy on one of the exchanges said that Bitcoin could go up to $1 million, and I'm like, that's a big assumption, and that's assuming the demand's going to be there for it. I don't think that will happen. I think crypto looks good. I mean, you got China putting out their digital yuan, and Facebook's trying to push the Libra. So there's some legitimacy behind crypto. But what do you think about this statement about Bitcoin could go up to $1 million? Either of you guys?
That's a funny one. I did see Lithuania. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. Started a digital-backed currency or something. So I don't know if Bitcoin has the ability to capture as much market share of finance as it would require to achieve that level.
What about crypto generally?
I mean, I like the idea that you can trade these things through like the CME, with options even, right? So it could be interesting to kind of participate with the institutional guys that way.
Okay.
But I don't know. I feel like a lot of the technologies are overhyped still. I've been following the scene for 4 years, and I'm very familiar with a lot of how the tech is different at each. I would say of the probably the main ones that you've heard of, and probably a few more in the top 1 or 200. And I've tried to use some of their tech. I've tried to just understand things deeply. I don't think the business value is there. I don't think the tech value is really there. Overall, there's a few very, very, very special projects. They don't get enough attention. And Bitcoin is very heavily manipulated, so it's quite difficult, I think, to trade if you're not, I don't know, very experienced or
Well,
have a lot of money to learn how to trade it.
but with the technology that you're speaking of, obviously blockchain. I mean, is it in the space of finance or is it another?
Like decentralized finance is going to be super interesting.
Right.
It's a little complicated for most people to just jump in and learn and read about it if you haven't kind of understood Ethereum first and what the crypto scene has kind of evolved from since
Yeah. Yeah.
Ethereum's inception. But um, blockchain in and of itself should quite like rarely be applied to technology concepts and ideas, right? So it's just been a phase of 4 years of just throwing a blockchain onto everything and just like rushing to make it somehow work. And a lot of the, I think, direction has been lost in greed for raising money and delivering a product that's usually garbage. But overall, it will be a lasting technology. It's not going anywhere. It's one of the most important things, I think, in the world. But I don't think it's the valuations that they're giving to these projects are so off, and most of the tech doesn't really work and doesn't offer much value. PayPal to me is the better version of Bitcoin right now.
Yeah. I was just gonna say because
Um,
you got companies like Bitcoin and Visa are talking. We're gonna start. Well, PayPal said they're gonna start enabling people to transact with something like Bitcoin on PayPal soon. So, I mean, to me, that would obviously put Bitcoin more into the mainstream if PayPal users are able to access it. Um, and as far as I know, Visa's going to adopt some form of a blockchain to expedite payments when you pay off your Visa. So that's coming too. So I think with that might legitimize something like Bitcoin and maybe increase the value of it. And that fundamentally would do that. No, you don't think?
Possibly, but if PayPal like announcement barely influenced the market at all, which is quite interesting because when I heard that, I thought, oh my God, here we go to 20K.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. The sentiment should be that it would cause an eruption, but then again, nothing really happened. So
Yeah, and, and that's what I say about the halvening as well. Like for Bitcoin in early May, it's gone nowhere. Like the Bitcoin price really hasn't moved a lot. So
So, is everyone going to still use Bitcoin in the future, which is required for its value to continue to sustain growth, right? That's the
exactly,
thing. So,
exactly.
usability is directly tied with the valuation in cryptocurrency specifically.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think that dynamic is a little overlooked, and people like to live in a dream state. But looking at the fact that we haven't crossed really the 10.5 mark in forever, and it should have by now. It's like the market is not really as convinced as you could have probably expected given 2020 happening and all the other stuff that's going on. There has been a lot of movement this year in the blockchain space and a lot of positive things, but it hasn't, like, it has come and moved up in price, but it hasn't been like exponential. It hasn't been
exactly.
overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah. So is that why you're putting more emphasis on looking at like legitimate futures like commodities and the stock indices? I guess namely U.S.
I mean, I'm just interested in things that I can trade very easily when it comes to a statistical approach, and I've
Okay.
just, been taught a certain way, and that's just kind of my starting point was. So I don't have as much knowledge as a lot of people with, things like the forex and the treasuries and stocks.
But from your perspective, I mean, between let's say crypto and legit futures through CME or CBOT and whatever else, where would you put most of your research into legitimate futures or speculative crypto?
So when you say futures, you mean futures on Bitcoin?
No, futures on legitimate,
On legit.
traditional, like agriculture, commodity. Yeah,
Yeah, I think spending your time trying to learn crypto is pretty much a giant waste of time if you're probably anything less than 5 years experienced. Um, and I've seen people like glorify what it's like, and if you trade like the S&P 500 futures, which is supposed to be the biggest, baddest, like hardest, complex thing to learn in trading, apparently,
hmm
when you watch like something like Binance or BitMEX futures, it's just an order of magnitude more ridiculous. And so for my, weaving through this career from the bottom point of not knowing anything and having followed this crypto space and just seen it evolve and then learning about what's supposed to be considered a very complex and difficult market, it's like it's a whole level of just insanity, right? And when you don't understand psychology or risk management, there's no way you can make it. And that is even 10 times more amplified in markets that are, anything other than the USDT, like the Tether Bitcoin markets
yeah, yeah.
or the futures markets in Bitcoin, like the altcoins and everything else. Like that is a very complex, dangerous game. And there's no real necessarily like value behind any of those alternative currencies. Even though, yes, you can make money, even though, yes, there are people that talk about how great these projects are. It's very dangerous.
Yeah,
I,
yeah, I
I,
agree.
I wouldn't, I would spend my time learning trading stocks or probably learning how to trade the futures market.
So that's where you lie. It's more in the futures and stocks versus more speculative crypto.
I mean, it's easy to get hacked. It's easy to screw up a transfer. It's
Yeah, yeah.
easy to forget your password or your private key. Um, like if you don't understand coding, if you don't know what security on the internet is, like you can just lose everything. Like there's so many additional risks.
hmm
Whereas if you really wanted to attack crypto, and the broker requirements for trading futures on the CME are astronomical, especially if you're Canadian and you'd have to do it through interactive brokers.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you're talking hundreds of thousands needed in your account margin to just short one contract,
yeah. I know.
right? Long is different, short they have different requirements. So if you wanted to know that your money is safe, if you're trading on the speculation on that market, go through the CME, you'll be fine, right? You're not going to get hacked. You're not going to mess up a transfer. You call your bank, move your money around, and still trade on crypto. But if you're not doing it that way, like it makes no sense.
That's true. That's especially when you get into more of a sophisticated level of an account, like
Yeah.
maybe beyond 10,000 or so.
So I mean, lots of people try it. Lots of people have made it successfully. I commend them. It's a very difficult task.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not really for it for the average person,
yeah,
especially if you're like not watching it every day.
yeah. I agree with that. I agree with that. So, where do you see your focus on? Mostly, like moving over the next, let's say, couple of weeks to months. Just the U.S. stock market's pretty well in futures.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn options right now.
Oh,
So
options, okay.
options on futures, I guess, on the SPOOs. Because I find like if you can trade volatility, that to me is fascinating. Um, I know I have to focus still on what I got to do every day, right, to stay in the flow as a day trader. It's 60, 80 hours a week, so I don't have as much time for the learning right now.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, I really want to learn options. So if you
But
have any like cool resources or ideas, share them.
well, I just put up an article today or yesterday about options, and the emphasis is. I mean, I'm not sure if you're focusing on the same option, like the Greeks and implied volatility, the math behind.
Yep.
That's where you're the one with
Yep.
options. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
I guess the quantitative side is sort of where I'm getting my head into, just dabbling a little bit.
And you're doing that on Interactive Brokers.
My broker's AMP, but
Okay.
I've heard IB for Canadians wanting to trade U.S. markets is another decent option. I just don't know. I haven't tried.
Because
AMP's been great.
this isn't all new to me. Because I've looked at a broker called Canon Trading out of California. They're pretty established. They do both futures and options. But my question, I know the amount that's required, like from a minimal standpoint, to trade either the micros about 750, a regular contract on futures about 2,500 US. But what would you recommend you need to start with from a minimal standpoint to fund an account with to really get your teeth wet or your teeth into options? What would you recommend to start with?
I'm waiting for micro options to come, and I'm just going to trade them on like Replay or Sim and just do a bunch of back testing for now.
I see. Okay.
I don't think they have the micro products yet. I just remember hearing, I think they're coming like very soon.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I'm the type that like I spend a lot more time, I guess, in the research and the back testing, and even on watching the market. But it's difficult for people who are starting out, because if you don't know that you can make money, at least on a very sophisticated simulator, like there's no sense in putting money into an account and just losing it basically.
And what type of technologies are you using to do your research with?
So my charting platform is Sierra Chart. But I'm dabbling with this thing called Quant Connect. It's an open source thing. It's a little weird for futures, so it's still a little messy on that front. But you can always do backtesting in Sierra Chart. There's a few different ways. And then there's obviously, using like Python to query stuff and, ask questions and statistics. So yeah, my background is like computer science, so it's a mix of, I guess, Python for the research, Jupyter notebooks, and yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm in a similar game. I'm also using a pretty sophisticated platform called MotoWave, and that's working out really nice too.
So I haven't heard of that one, and I've tried most of them.
Let me just pull it up.
What's it cost?
Well, I can show you. It depends what you want out of it. It's different. There's different. I'll put it in the chat as well. There's different editions. So it's the most it's the most sophisticated platform I've come up with. But pricing, you'd be looking at for the ultimate, depending upon if you want to go monthly or buy it outright for the year. It's about $2,300.
Okay.
So it's built for options and futures. If you like Thinkorswim but on steroids, this is the platform.
I will definitely be going deep and looking at this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. And the other thing is, I've looked at all the different brokers out there. You can trade crypto with them as well.
Okay.
But
great.
This is what I found out about. This is how I found about Canon trading, was through these guys. So they look good.
Not a fan of Rhythmic data feed.
Yeah.
Don't know if you've had the same issues.
No, I've not gone deep with it.
I like CQG. Most of the big boys I know like CQG.
Right.
But to each their own.
Yeah, I don't know. What have your challenges been with Rhythmic?
Okay, Brian, I'm going to take your leave, okay?
Okay, man. You have a good day.
To y'all.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Have a great day,
okay see you with you.
Thank you. Bye.
No problem. See you. What were you finding with Rhythmic?
So I use Sierra Chart, and there's an element with the way the protocol works with Rhythmic. It's different than the rest, and for that reason, Sierra Chart was going to be phasing it out. So I just, from the get-go, I've been using CQG, but I just have a bunch of other trader friends who have used Rhythmic, and like whether they're doing it for themselves or on like tryout platforms, like it's just constant, at least once a month, headache or a customer contact, like support something, ticket, some broken thing. Like I've just constantly heard people have issues.
Really?
I've had one CQG issue, and I'm still not sure if it was my internet or them, but like always solid.
And you like AMP as well, so that's a good sign. And you're out of Canada as well, right?
Yeah. So, it's a little weird getting set up, but yeah, it's doable.
Through AMP.
Yeah. It's only wire transfer, US dollar. So it's just a little different than I think what most people have to go through to get set up. But yeah. Okay,
good to know. I don't know if there's any other points I can come up with. Anybody else want to address anything? We're coming up to an hour. I guess this is the point where we start losing people. Anybody else got any questions or comments at all? You can always type them up in the chat or.
I just got one.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said something about community, so I'm always like in Discords and Slacks. I'm just, if you have a community, I'm happy to join and see what people are chatting about.
Yeah, the best one right now, I just started a new group on my WhatsApp. So we're already up to 40 people. I was quite surprised. Some of them are actually fairly sophisticated traders. Let me just pull up the link for you.
Quant Labs.
Yeah, Quant Labs. Just give me a second here. I'll send you the invite code or the. So we shall find it. I think right here. This one right here. So if you're in the chat, just make sure you grab this URL.
Okay. Yeah.
If I could get this working. Okay, copy link. There you go. You got that?
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot.
Okay, that's probably the easiest one to go with. So I used to have Facebook's. I have a Facebook group as well. It's pretty good as well. Just see if I can find that. That's about 12,000 people in there. So
I'll probably not go in there. I don't really use Facebook. Like I use it for Messenger, but
but you stay out of Facebook. Okay, yeah. But the WhatsApp I have.
Cool, man. Thanks a lot.
No problem. Anybody else got any questions at all or comments? Because I think
I gotta go actually.
Yeah.
But awesome job. This is great.
No problem.
I will definitely be chatting with you guys later. So
okay. Thanks for all your input. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care, guys.
Have a good one. Have a good one. Thanks. Bye. Anybody else have any questions or comments at all? If not, we can just give it a wrap for tonight. Anybody? I'll do it going once, twice, 3 times. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, so we're done. So I'll have another webinar next week. Same idea, just different topics, as I said. I'll put up the video playback for later in the next few hours on YouTube. And thanks for coming out. Have a good selves and eggs day.